I want to
Chair
call.
Steen, do you want to bring the meeting to order, or would you like?
Yes, I want to call to order the CPS Energy Board of Trustees meeting, March 30th, 2020, and it's 1 o'clock. And I want to begin by doing a roll call. If Ms. Shellman is on the line, and I know she is, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir, I will. John Steen, Chair.
Here.
Dr. Willis Mackey.
Here.
Trustee Janie Gonzalez. Here. Mayor Ron Nierenberg.
Here.
Trustee Ed Kelly.
Here.
Mayor, Chair, we have a quorum.
All right. We especially appreciate that our mayor has joined us today. And Mayor, I know you're very busy in any case, but I know things have gotten intense in an unprecedented way. And we usually have a safety message to begin our meetings, but I'd like to give the floor to our mayor to talk to our CPS Energy family about the COVID-19 crisis.
Great. Thank you, Chairman Steen. This is Mayor Ron Nierenberg, and appreciate you all getting together in this way. It is an unprecedented time here in San Antonio and really across the world with the COVID-19 response that's happening. I'll just give you a brief update of where we are in the community, then I'm happy to take any questions that you have. And I'll keep all my comments relative to the San Antonio-Bexar County region as that's probably most relevant to everybody. As of today, we are in completely within phase 2 of our COVID-19 response, which is essentially containing and eventually hopefully ending community spread, which is a very intense process at this point, and I'll get to a little bit about what that means for the community. As of last night, which is our last report, and we update these reports daily, and Judge Wolf and I are giving a 6:10 p.m. update to the community. But as of our last report yesterday, we have 157 total confirmed infections of COVID-19 in our community. I'll get to testing in a moment because these numbers are probably underrepresentative of what's actually out there, but more on that in a moment. 61 of those 157 cases are travel-related, meaning that it came to us. The person infected was infected as a result of travel to a hotspot either overseas or elsewhere in the country. 21 of those 157 are related to close contact with an individual who has already contracted the disease. 55 cases are confirmed community transmission, meaning that there's no point of origin for the infection and it was picked up somewhere in the community at an unidentifiable source. 20 of those are still under investigation to identify the source, and then of course we've had 5 people pass away as a result of COVID-19. We are in a aggressive posture in terms of standing up additional testing capabilities. We want to very significantly ramp up the amount of testing that's happening in the community, which has been a challenge as the different federal guidelines have changed, and also as PPE and other equipment, including the test kits themselves, have started to come online. But we have to date in a pre-approved federal testing site, which takes quite a bit of time to get results back. We've tested over 1,000 people at that pre-approved testing site that's at Freeman Coliseum. Most of those test results have not yet come back to us. The tests that we have received are largely through our Metro Health Public Authority Lab. There's been roughly 560 or so tests run at that place, and that's where we're getting the bulk of our confirmed positives. And then we have private labs all over the city that are also conducting the tests. Some of those are included in the infection count, but over the next several days, we're going to be getting a lot more data back and being able to disaggregate the data in a much better form for the public. It has been a work in progress, given the fact that our work is through a 22-county region, which also has to be disaggregated, but also the testing process and all the different testing locations and procedures have also made it somewhat obtuse in terms of data collection. So let me talk about, and just really quickly also in our numbers for people that are interested, we have 35 people who are currently in the hospital because of COVID-19. 12 of those are in ICU, 11 of which are on ventilators. Those numbers are small, but they're significant because that's what we're tracking in terms of being able to manage hospital capacity and our ability to treat disease at a rate that doesn't overwhelm our medical community. And that's really important because all the efforts that we've been doing in terms of restricting movement and activities in our community is really meant to flatten the curve, which has been a phrase now used quite a bit to describe the level of infections that happen at one time in our community. If we don't significantly reduce the peak, the surge of cases that inevitably happens in a highly contagious disease outbreak, then we could face a situation where our hospital system, its personnel, its equipment, and its actual facilities are overwhelmed. We are planning for that eventuality if it does occur, but we're working very hard as a community to make sure it doesn't. So social distancing, the practice of making sure we're eliminating unessential activities and we're non-essential activities, and we're also keeping 6 feet of distance between ourselves and strangers is our best weapon against the spread of the virus. Denying the virus an opportunity to spread will prevent our health care providers and hospital from being overwhelmed. Slowing the spread is critical to reducing the number of cases and ultimately to saving lives, and that's why County Judge Nelson Wolf and I have been working together and have issued orders closing all non-essential businesses and services. The instructions are pretty clear. If you don't need to be out, stay home. If you are working in an essential service or job, stay 6 feet away from your colleagues, provide adequate sanitation, and so on. There's the CDC guidelines that are all well documented, and we have resources to point you towards. Those not in essential jobs obviously should stay home, stay safe, stay healthy, go outside to get fresh air, but get back home. We're urging everyone to wash their hands regularly, keep their surfaces clean, and ultimately to understand that this is a very serious situation. We're not alone. We can see, even here in the United States, even as close as New Orleans, what's happening when people don't take this seriously or if we don't act quickly enough. So we're asking folks to help our neighbors by reducing the spread of the virus and by following social distance protocols now. We'll soon be dining and dancing together again soon. We'll have a great fiesta soon enough, but we have to work together in order to get out of these restrictions as quickly as possible. We know the consequences are dire. County Judge Wolf and I are going to be working together to put together some teams involved with addressing urgent needs in the community. We are all in this together. Many lives are at risk, including your own. So we are asking everyone to work together, and let's get through this as quickly as possible. So at this point, I'll just stop and see if there's any questions, if you'd like me to answer any, Chairman. Otherwise, I'm happy to yield the floor.
Yes, so I'd ask our trustees any questions or comments.
No.
All right, hearing none. Mayor, by the way, I did watch the briefing you and Judge Wolf gave last night, and that's very informative. And I just want to confirm that for everybody, the briefings are daily. You said it's 6:10. Is that correct?
Yeah, roughly 6:10, 6:13, and usually on the networks. They're live streamed as well.
Good. And I was going to ask our CEO if we could get the word out to our, we've got, how many employees do we have now? I know it's 3,000 plus, but how many, Paula? Bill Williams?
It's close to 3,200.
And do you have a way to directly communicate with all those employees? Can you send out something that reaches every one of them? I assume you do.
Yeah, we have multiple channels that we could utilize.
So I would like to, if you agree, for you to put the word out that we would strongly suggest that our employees watch those briefings. I think they're very valuable.
Will do. We will take that action item.
Good. And So, Mayor, I want to speak for the CPS Energy family. Really, thank you so much for your steadfast leadership during this community crisis. We can't thank you enough. And Madam CEO, we want to hear from you also about safety, but would you want to do that now or during your CEO report?
The thing I would like to do right now is to thank the mayor and the entire board. Thank the mayor, the council, the judge, and the commissioners for their leadership. This is a very hard time. We are considered essential personnel, and so we pay attention to all of the guidance. We share that for our employees to consider when they're away from work, but we are also focused on keeping the grid and the power going. But I want to thank everyone for their leadership and support of CPS Energy, and I will have additional comments during my CEO report as well.
Thank you. Let's move to agenda item 3, which is the invocation. And I'll just say, as we've come to expect, that Paula Williams has risen to the occasion and really done a superb job managing through this COVID-19 crisis, and just a true leader. And I think it's appropriate at this time that we pause and let our CEO lead us in prayer.
Thank you so much, Chair Steen. I think we had a very good briefing from the mayor about the complexity and the challenges in front of us today. What I want to do on behalf of our 3,200 employees, serving 2 million people in this community that are our neighbors and our friends and our family. We are thankful, though, for today, for being given the blessings and the opportunities and the ability to face challenges with the support of our community. We thank our Lord for the ability to be involved and useful in the work, and we are honored for the bearings of important responsibilities that we have. We ask the Lord for guidance, for your thoughts, and to guide our actions so we can be successful in today's meeting of our Board of Trustees. We need your help to accomplish the goals in front of us so that we can display the character needed. Help us to do good, to be honest, to serve, and to fulfill the obligations of our community. We pray these things in your name. Amen.
Thank you very much. We'll move now to agenda item 4, public comment. This provides an opportunity for members of the public to share thoughts on any of this meeting's posted agenda items. We'll follow a similar process as to what we've done for in-person board meetings. I'll invite pre-registered speakers to speak in the order in which they registered so we may hear their comments. They may only address the board on CPS Energy-related business listed on the posted agenda for this meeting. For this meeting, we have 3 registered speakers who will have each 2 minutes to speak, and speakers will hear a chime sound when 10 seconds remain, letting them know that they should wrap up their comments. We would appreciate if speakers state their first and last name, what organization or group they represent, if applicable, and indicate the agenda item number they're going to speak about. So our first speaker is Alan Montemayor, to be followed by Meredith Mcguire.
Good morning, and once again, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Alan Montemayor. I'll be speaking on agenda item 8, and I am a resident of San Antonio. I'm speaking for myself. I would like to first thank everyone there for keeping the lights on, keeping the power flowing that makes it possible to pump the water to wash our hands and flush our toilets and air condition our homes. It's something that's way too easy to take for granted, and I want you to know that we are appreciative of that. As this crisis progresses, it really brings to mind to me the fact that we're all being faced with climate change, and that is a crisis that is happening much slower, but ultimately the ramifications of it may be equally dire to what's going on right now. As you go into your executive session, I will not be able to hear you. I will not be able to see into your hearts, but I know that each of you has in mind the best interests of all of the citizens of San Antonio. But as you go in and face the COVID-19 crisis, I ask you to keep in mind what's going on with climate change and make CPS an integral part of being a positive influence for a very long period of time that we will need to act and act aggressively to mitigate the consequences of climate change. We're already seeing that because of the COVID-19 crisis in China and here in San Antonio, the air quality has improved substantially. There's even estimates that in China, there will be more lives saved from air quality improvements than will have died with COVID-19. Got 10 seconds?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyway, please eliminate coal, electrify your vehicle fleet, get rid of natural gas incentives, and be a positive force for climate change in San Antonio. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you, Mr. Montemayor. Our next speaker is Meredith Mcguire.
At this end, so could you please make sure that this chime is very soft?
Sure. Is this Ms. McGuire?
Yes. Could you?
Okay.
Could I start now? Okay.
Yes, please start now.
Thanks for this opportunity to speak. Thanks also for implementing the moratorium on power cutoffs during the COVID-19 crisis. It's very appropriate, but it's not enough. As a medical sociologist, I must remind you that the rates CPS Energy charges residential ratepayers are part of the problem. The rates must be restructured to make them affordable even for the poor. San Antonio has the worst poverty rate of the 25 largest U.S. cities, even worse than Detroit's. Nearly half the workers aged 18 to 64 in the San Antonio, New Braunfels MSA earn low wages. Nearly half. They are mainly concentrated in San Antonio's older inner-city neighborhoods. Before COVID-19, most of these low-wage workers were already struggling to pay for rent, utilities, food, and medicine, even before they had, even if they had steady full-time jobs. Many have now been furloughed or let go. Even were they able to find work again in 2 months, say, there's no way they will ever be able to afford to pay the utility bills that CPS and SAWS have merely deferred rather than canceled. When I talked about climate change to people in those neighborhoods with low-income workers, I showed them a map of the heat island effect in their neighborhood, and when we overlap those maps with the city's vulnerability index, behold, they are exactly the same. If you mapped CPS Energy's shutoff notices, they would likely show the same neighborhoods. Please find a way by which people can afford to pay their bills. People will die during a heat wave if they have not got air conditioning, and you must not ever let that happen here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGuire. And our third and final speaker is Dee Dee Belmaris.
Hi, everybody. This is Dee Dee Belmaris with Public Citizen. I want to start by saying that I appreciate that CPS Energy discontinued utility disconnects during the COVID-19 pandemic. We all know that this pandemic is creating a financial hardship for so many families, not only here in San Antonio, but all over. And we still don't know the effects that this pandemic will have on families in the long term. With that being said, I'm asking that CPS Energy continue advancing the proposed rate advisory committee. A rate advisory committee would give some of the most impacted community members a much-needed voice in rate and resource planning, since they're suffering financial hardship right now. That's all I have to say, but I will end by saying I hope that everybody remains safe and well, and I look forward to the day that we can all meet in person.
Thank you, Ms. Belmaris. That concludes the public comment portion of our meeting, and I have no remarks specifically, so I'd like to move to the CEO's report.
Hey, thank you, sir. I just have notes. Everything is moving at a very fast pace, so we decided that my report out would be verbal. I will start with the perspective of COVID-19 is the primary focus of the organization and all the things that have to happen to support that while we keep operating as a company. We are focused on making sure this community knows we're keeping the power going for them. That includes all of our efforts around our power plants, our transmission lines, our distribution lines, our customer contact centers, our technology. Everything is still functioning and functioning well, but we do have to think very differently about how we accomplish things in light of things like social distancing, which we take very seriously. I like to always highlight some things that correlate with how we feel and how we function. We continue to think global and act local. We have been monitoring the COVID developments for months. We have seen the global trends. We have watched the migration that has been facilitated by a lot of things, including global travel. Realizing this, we've always taken it very seriously because supplying power to San Antonio and to Texas and all power companies across the nation, it's important that we all know as utility energy workers that what we do is critical. Everything has to have power, and the power provides even the water. So we are connected in the most vital ways to our community. We have been studying this to a great degree, and we understand that this is unprecedented. We have many people who ask us questions, is this like the pressures we've seen in 2008 or in other times where there's been a crisis? And we think there's been nothing like it. This is one where not only do we have an epic global pandemic without a vaccine or a solution, but it's denoted that we have issues across the globe related to supply chain challenges that we kind of taken for granted, and has been coupled with financial stress and volatility. The oil supply markets show vulnerability. Prices of oil, cost of barrels of oil have gone down. That has been due to geopolitical issues with governments, but still underlying has caused extreme financial stress across the globe. The stock markets have been very unstable, and the Federal Reserve has tried very hard to stabilize our economy with near zero interest rates. They've also been working on the supply of cash flow, but these are still going to be tough solutions going forward because we're going to be in this predicament for no one knows how long. What we have at CPS Energy is we have two major programs that we've had in place for years that we have aligned totally together. One is our business continuity plan, and the other is our pandemic preparedness plans. These have been very extensive. They've been in place for a long time, but we've coupled them together in a special way, and that's been supported by the way the senior chiefs work together. Across our entire enterprise, all of our senior chiefs work in a team strategy to make sure that we're doing the right things for our company, for our community, and for our employees and customers. In February, it was noted in the public that we were taking this seriously. We had very much promoted social distancing, no shaking hands, hand sanitizers, hand washing, and it got noticed at our February City of the Future event. But it wasn't a fad. It was what we were doing to take it seriously, that this was a big deal. We understand that the COVID-19 issues across our community are affecting jobs and businesses. And we, again, very much applaud the City Council for their acknowledgement that we could do more in terms of recognizing the difficulty people will have in paying their bills. We already had a plan and a process for this. We historically have been suspending disconnects during the peak of summer. As one of our commenters, Dee Dee Belmaris, mentioned, we understand that, and Meredith, we understand that it's important not to disconnect people's power in times of stress. So over the summer and over the holidays, we typically do not disconnect anyone. So we were very promptly able to respond the same day that it was mentioned to us from the council that we should suspend disconnects. We have done this, and so accordingly. We are supporting the community in that way. That said, we are extremely appreciative of our community. Our community takes their bills seriously. They take their energy seriously. And so we have made ourselves available. We continue to have our payment centers open. They are now open from 10:30 a.m. to 5 o'clock p.m. And we encourage our customers to call us at 210-353-2222. And so that in that way, we want to talk to them. We want to be able to work with them. We understand that there are challenges now. And so as soon as we get those phone calls, we start waiving late fees, and we start thinking about payment plans that help them ensure that when we do get back to a sense of stability in our community, there aren't huge bills facing them. So we're compassionate, we are creative, and we are working with everyone, residential, small business, medium business, large businesses, and industrial accounts. We are here to work with everyone. We understand that this is a community challenge, and working together, we will be respecting each other and working with each other to be as helpful as possible. We all have seen the great work that the city and the county has done, the mayor and the judge. We have very much paid attention to every bit of guidance that they've given us, and we've very intensely reviewed the most recent order that has come in front of us about making sure that people can stay at home and work at home when they can. Again, it doesn't really apply to the core of what we do because most of our work, most of our employees are field workers. But we still have done as much as we can in terms of looking at our entire enterprise of more than 3,000 people, and we've broken our organization up into 3 teams. The blue team primarily exists and includes our skilled craft employees and our senior chiefs. Our senior chiefs are focused on our front line, at our group of employees that have to be out there in the field. So we put ourselves in their category and think about things through their eyes. It's hard. We got a lot of things to do to get better at it, but we are definitely improving our focus on our employees and trying to get them as much information as we can. We have a lot of opportunity there. We also have a white team. Those are office essential personnel. There are a lot of things that we have to do from the location here. We also have secure systems. It's important that employees are working on site in many cases, and they are, though, practicing social distancing. The first group is probably over 1,600 employees. The blue team, the white team is about 300 employees. And then we have the orange team, which is about 1,200 employees. I'll get my math there. But ultimately, these on the orange team are office essential personnel. They are essential support personnel, and their focus is to make sure that everything in the back office is taken care of so that the blue team in particular can get their work done. So we've done that. We've rolled out that communication plan, and we have a couple of other things I want to highlight. Specifically relative to our blue team, which really work out of more industrial-type sites. They work out of service center locations, or they're operating power plants or something like that. We are currently cycling the program where each group by location has a safety stand-down. What that means is they stay at home that day, and then they get a phone call from someone either from our people and culture group or from our occupational safety group. That they get screened. They're screened about their behaviors. They're screened about have they been in contact with large groups. Have they traveled, even by car, outside of our service territory? And going through that screening, we determine which people need to be cleared to be able to come back to work as promptly as possible, or those that need to be self-quarantined until we can get more clarity about where they are in following the COVID-19 provisions of social distancing. If we need to, we will self-quarantine someone, ask them to self-quarantine for at least 14 days, and in some cases we make that longer depending on what their particular circumstances are. We ask questions about them and their family, but we're getting better and better at that all the time. Before people go through 2 checks, one, of course, is the proactive conversation by phone. That is a screening. The next is they get a temperature check. So we have set up mobile locations. The first one was downtown. Now we're rotating them to check the temperatures and specifically make sure that nobody's running the temperature. And this way they can make sure that they can go back to work, and our public and our community and customers can be assured that we are applying good processes and controls to keep our employees safe and to keep them safe. One thing I did want to add, we were very fortunate. We had 2 retired nurses come in and help us with this process of checking temperatures, and we are most appreciative. That was also additional thought that Chair Steen had, and we were very, very pleased and proud that we had 2 nurses that have done that, and we may from time to time use retirees to help us through this very difficult period. Relative to our white and orange teams, those again are those that are primarily working in the office. We have set more than 1,200 people up to be able to work from home. That was not an easy feat. We had to make sure that the connectivity was right. We had to make sure the cadence and connections were right, both in terms of technology and in leaders reaching out to their employees and making sure that they had a good cadence to have meetings. We have optimized beyond our previous abilities just a few weeks ago. Things like FaceTime, we can FaceTime multiple people at one time, and I can even do it. So I can tell you that that most of the organization can do it if I can do it. We're also using, I think, WebEx to a more optimal level than ever before in our organization. We can get probably 100 people easily on the line, and the ability to see people's faces and hear their voices has made a big difference in our transition to letting more people or asking more people to work at home. And we also have some groups using Microsoft Teams. So digitally, this has moved us along faster than anything else we have seen. And it's working, but it takes a lot of effort to have that transition. I do want to highlight that we are considered essential, and a couple of other things. Construction projects have been able to continue under the new ordinance. And the significance of that is we continue to see customer demand. We continue to see that the projects that have been in place for new subdivisions and developments are continuing. And so our people have real incremental and new work on top of the maintenance and on top of managing any implications relative to storms. We have been lucky. We have not had any major issues around storms, but we are entering storm season, and we are preparing for that. Incidentally, our project for the headquarters location continues. It is a construction project and in process, so it is continuing, and we are making good progress there, and don't see that as falling behind. Financial challenges, we definitely understand that as customers in all groups are challenged by these times. It's going to be difficult. Again, that's why we want to work on payment arrangements and consider the fact that everyone has some level of challenge that we can work with. We don't have the stats, so I don't have specific numbers. We haven't even closed the month yet. In general, we do see that demand residential appears to be going up, and it's offset by some of the declines across our commercial businesses. Sadly, some of our businesses across town, other than hospitality, have closed. A lot of hotels and restaurants have been significantly affected. We see some changes in the demand. That said, we have enough demand to handle whether it's coming from the residential side of the house or still coming from the commercial side of the house. So we are still very long in our capacity, and we have had no challenges in generating enough power to the city of San Antonio metropolitan community, as well as deliver some excess needed power to the rest of the state. I do want to thank Trustee Gonzalez last Friday, recognizing again that our customers have been challenged, particularly small businesses. We had a Facebook Live session for about 30 minutes on the dot last Thursday, and she and I, along with Maria Garcia, who's the Vice President of Supply Chain, and Melissa Sorolla, who is the head of our Corporate Communications Group, we all had a presence where we, again, explained our programs, explained our outreach, not just the suspended payments, but and the payment plans, but the affordability discounts, the REAP programs, and other things that we can help people conserve energy, but also use energy that they need wisely and efficiently. So that was a great effort. I appreciate her time. We're going to look for some other topics, again, as much outreach as we can do to our community. We want to be here for them. We continue to stay in touch with board members. We continue to be able to send journal information and those type of things in between the board meetings. No vote items, but we're gonna stay on process to make sure that the board is informed along the way. And then maybe my last point is we are spending, again, a tremendous amount of time, long hours, weekends, dealing with this change in business that has been brought by this big global pandemic and issue. But we are open for business, and we're continuing to do the things that are important for our community and customers and employees. This includes the RAC. We continue to work on the RAC. We currently have an RFP out. We did expect to get responses in for a consultant to help us with managing the process for the committee once it gets started. We did get a request from some respondents to ask us to extend that time period because of COVID. So there just continues to be a matrix of implications from the COVID developments across the globe. We have agreed, so it'll be a couple more weeks before we can get those responses in, and then it'll take us some time to think about how that's going to work in light of the fact that people are not traveling. But the real assurance is to tell you that we are still working on that and have not put that on the back burner. It's running parallel, but of course, the majority of our efforts are for COVID. So that is my update, and I'd be willing to answer any questions that the board members have at this time.
Now I'd ask our trustees if you have any questions or comments.
To Mr. Chair.
Yes, Dr. Mackey.
Hey, to our CEO, and want to congratulate her on all the things that she's been doing to keep us informed on the COVID-19. And I would like to bring to her attention, and maybe this has been an oversight, that it was a good job in recognizing Women's History Month. But one name that's been brought to my attention that's been left off, and that is Jamie Rochelle, former CPS member. If you could please review that and look at that and see if there's something that we left off. And if we did, then we can recognize her in another way, because she was with CPS for 29 years and was a woman CEO, too. Thank you.
Dr.
Yes, sir.
Mackey, that's an excellent point, and that is an oversight. Go ahead, Paula Williams.
Well, I have to be truthful. It wasn't necessarily an oversight. What we had done is all of the women board members and the current senior leaders, but we will continue to feature women. We've had multiple advertisements and postings of women, so we will include more because there are more women in our legacy, including Jamie Rochelle. But for this, because the advertisement was a finite number of spaces, we just included all the trustees and the current executive women, but we will do some effort to get the other women. We have had other promotions during the weekend on the website, so we'll expand that.
Great, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Mackey. Are there any other questions or comments from the trustees? All right.
No.
I just want to go ahead.
No, I just said no.
No, okay. So I just want to say again, we appreciate our CEO, who, like the mayor, has really risen to the occasion, and we'll just keep saying it. We're just blessed to be in such good hands, leadership-wise. Let's move to our next item on the agenda, which is item 7, resolution for authorization of real estate items. And this is a voting matter, and we'll have a roll call for the vote. But Mr. Alvarez, do you want to take us into this?
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be with you. As we've discussed over the last several months, we are, of course, in the process of building our new headquarters. I will take this opportunity to just remind the trustees about how cost-effective this project is, and thank you for your leadership and oversight as we've been on this pathway for several years now. In connection with the construction of our new headquarters and with the plan to consolidate a number of different facilities, our employees move them to our new headquarters, we have declared a number of property surplus. That happened, I guess, a little more than a year ago. For the last several months, we've been undergoing a full market sales process in connection with our broker, CBRE, and under the direction of our Master Planning Oversight Committee and the Board of Trustees. We have requested specific approval for 2 properties thus far to get your resolution of approval to delegate authority to our President and CEO, Paul Ogle Williams, to complete those transactions. And today, I'm bringing the balance of those properties. And so I'll just take a second to tell you about each of them. The first is main office building that we're in today, some of us, 145 Navarro Street. It's on 0.84 acres. It was built in 1928, and it houses the majority of our downtown office workers. The second is the attached interest in the Tower Garage. It was built in 1955. It provides 133 parking spaces. The third is the Navarro building, which is 146 Navarro Street. It's just kind of across the skywalk from the building, our main office building. It's on 1.3 acres. It was built in 1968, and in the garage associated with it, there are almost 600 parking spaces. Finally, there is a parking lot, a surface parking lot that's between where the Mexican consulate building is. The official address of that piece of property is 121 Navarro Street. It's just over 1 acre. We acquired it in 1993. It gives us 108 parking spaces. So those 4 properties are what is left among the properties that were declared surplus in September of 2018. And I am today asking, in consideration of the close previous communication that we've had with our Board of Trustees under the oversight of that body and also the Master Planning Oversight Committee, and with our President and CEO, I'm asking for a resolution where the board would authorize but not completely obligate our President and CEO or her designees to complete the sale of these properties. And those are my prepared comments. I would be glad to answer any questions.
Before we take questions or comments from the board, I'll make a short comment here. So everybody that's listening in, you'll notice when looking at the agenda for today that this is a bare bones meeting, and we debated whether to have a meeting at all, but we had to have one to act on a few critical matters. But generally, I think there's a reluctance to pull the mayor and our CEO and our senior staff away from managing this crisis we're in. So in this regard, it was my suggestion that we delegate to our CEO the authority to go ahead with various real estate deals without having to bring it back to the board. And by the way, this is actually standard corporate governance to delegate this kind of matter to our CEO. So I just was hoping that the board would consider doing this, at least while we're in the midst of this crisis. And in that regard, maybe I'll go ahead and have Carolyn Shellman read the proposed motion, and then we'll open it up for comments and discussions. Ms. Shellman?
Yes, sir. This is a document that's entitled Resolution Approving the Sale of Real Property. Whereas CPS Energy owns the main office building, Navarro building and garage, the surface parking lot adjacent to the Mexican consulate, and an interest in the Tower Life garage, as well as the underlying real estate. The property described in this resolution, the properties. And whereas by resolution of the Board of Trustees on September 24th, 2018, the properties were declared surplus and deemed no longer needed for use in the operation of the gas and electric systems. And whereas CPS Energy retained commercial real estate broker CBRE to market the properties for sale, and whereas the Board of Trustees previously evaluated the prior bids for the purchase of the properties and decided that the property should be sold to the identified buyers pursuant to the terms and price ultimately negotiated by CPS Energy. Now, therefore, be it resolved, 1, the recitals to this resolution are hereby incorporated by reference. 2, the Board of Trustees of CPS Energy hereby authorizes, but does not completely obligate, the President and CEO or her designee or designees to complete the sale of the property.
Chair.
Thank you. Now, do we have any questions or comments? And perhaps Paula Go Williams, do you want to say anything, or wait till we've heard from the trustees?
I would be glad to weigh in. I think I have spent quite a bit of time with the board over the last several months getting your thoughts and considerations of things that are important to you. Please be assured that we are going to focus on the objectives that you originally set out in terms of focus on value back to the community and ensuring that we're looking at any extra considerations on each of these properties. I will still continue to keep you updated if you so choose to give me that authority today. This is not a mechanism of not keeping you updated. It's more of a mechanism because the market is so tough in the real estate area that if I do not have this, we will have to keep reconvening you potentially to take certain various actions. So I continue to be on the plan that you're very familiar with, and I will continue to update you in light of where we're headed.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Dr. Mackey.
Make a recommendation that we give authorization to the CEO of Energy hereby authorized, but does not completely obligate the President to complete the sale of this property.
Thank you, Dr. Mackey. So you've made the motion. Do we have a second?
Yes.
Second by Trustee Gonzalez.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, out of habit, but here we go. So what we're going to do now is have a roll call vote, and I'll ask Ms. Shellman to conduct that.
Yes, sir. Chair Steen?
Aye.
Dr. Mackey?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Mayor Nuremberg?
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Shellman. So the motion carries. And you all correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that because we've passed this resolution, we don't need to go into executive session. Is that correct? That was the only thing we were going to talk about was the real estate matters?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Well, so we'll move on to agenda item 9, and this is our consent agenda, and there are 2 items on there, the payment to the City of San Antonio for February 2020 and reaffirmation of board committee assignments. No changes at this time, and there are no procurement items, so there are only 2, and I would ask for a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I move. This is Ed Kelly.
All right, the motion by Mr.
Second.
Kelly is there, and seconded by
Trustee Gonzalez.
by Ms. Gonzalez. Any discussion? All right, I'll ask. Hearing none, I'll ask our Carolyn Shellman to call the roll.
Chair Steen?
Aye.
Dr. Mackey?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Mayor Nuremberg?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Shellman. So we move to adjournment. I do want to say CPS Energy has been around for 77 years as we've been owned by the city, and I think this must be our first telephonic board meeting, and I think it went really smoothly. So I want to thank Paula Go Williams. I do want to thank Danae Myers publicly, who worked so much on this. And Ms. Go Williams, anybody else that you would want to point out the team that put this together?
Well, there are so many people who have been working hard so that we can get it done, but Loretta and Danae have picked up a ton of tedious work to make sure it went smoothly, and then we have Xandra and Carol in the room to keep us out of trouble. So we are pleased to have having gone through this. Once again, I want to thank you all for your consideration and for I know I call you frequently, again, to just keep you updated, and so do the members of the CPS Energy leadership team. It is even more difficult now than before, and your plates are full doing the things that you do, but we thank you because in this way we continue to be able to operate efficiently and effectively for our customers and community. So thanks to everyone mentioned and everyone not mentioned of our 3,200 employees.
Thank you so much. Do we have any final thoughts from our trustees before we adjourn? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move.
So a motion to adjourn by Mr. Kelly.
Second by Trustee Gonzalez.
Seconded by Trustee Gonzalez. Any discussion? I think we'll dispense with the roll call vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Then the meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
The CPS